Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Whole Assistant podcast. We have a special treat for you today. Joining me is Becky Kaapuni of EA Social Club, and we are going to be talking about how to start your own executive assistant group. But before we go there, I just want to have Becky introduce yourself, and I also just want to hear about how you landed where you are. Tell us about your role as an executive assistant and just a general intro to you and all your amazingness.
Awesome. Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Becky, and I'm happy to be here with all of you today. I am currently supporting the CEO of AI at Salesforce. I've been with her for about a year and 7 months. I actually landed in the role because I had met her 8 years prior, and she was looking to hire me at the time, but it just didn't work out. She had a small startup, and she was looking to bring in an EA to the CEO, and she just didn't quite offer what I was looking for at that time because I had built up my career. And so I was definitely, looking for 401k, stock, planning, like, I mean, just all of the different things and the different options that I would have going into a larger company. And so she called me 8 years later when she was back at Salesforce, and she said, I finally have what you're looking for. Can you come and work for me? And I did. So that is how I wound up with my current executive. And it literally all happened through networking.
I love that. That's so great. Okay, so how did you come up with the idea of starting EA Social Club? And can you explain to everyone what EA Social Club is? And also, like, if you've been on LinkedIn, you've probably seen Becky's post or some iteration of Becky's post or somebody reposting one of Becky's posts. Like, I'm highly active on LinkedIn, and I actually reached out to her. I'm like, "You're cool. We need to connect. Can we please meet and chat?" And so that's kind of how our relationship
Yeah,
started. But I think everyone here, especially if you have some sort of interest in starting a group of your own in your current work environment, or even a broader group of executive assistants in your current area or location, are probably really curious, like what you gave you the idea for EA Social Club, and then also like how it came to be.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it really it started out organically. I had started reposting on LinkedIn jobs that I would see because I finally was in a position where I wasn't looking for a job anymore and I just wanted to give back to the community. So through reposting, that's how I kind of developed my presence on LinkedIn. It was not intentional at all. But as I started developing my presence on LinkedIn, I was like, it would be great to actually meet people in person, especially people who are in the Bay Area. I work with so many different EAs, and I just really wanted to kind of like bridge that gap. I was also feeling like I wanted friendships in my life. And I figured that the
Mm.
easiest way to do that was to find something that was cross sectional. And being an EA is something that, people can relate to. It's something that we could all talk about. And so it made sense to kind of start there. So I posted on LinkedIn asking if anybody would like to go to dinner. And that was kind of how I kicked this off. It was only intending to be a few dinners, but I received over 200 responses. And I was like, wow, okay, this is obviously something that people really feel that they need. So I created a dinner series at that point, and I was only planning on doing it for a couple months, and then I thought it would die down, but it didn't. And eventually I started getting contacted from people all across the US and then people overseas, and they wanted to do something similar in their communities. So instead of, really thinking through how much work and how much time and everything that would go into it, I just was like, okay, I will make this happen. I am the person who makes things happen. So I rolled up my sleeves, I dug in, and, here we are. And on the other side of it, I now realize, now we're a startup. Now we are actually like a company that is building. And, we're working out the kinks and whatnot. So I find that, it's really difficult to get started with an EA group at work. You have to have the buy-in from the other EAs, and you have to
Mm.
have the buy-in from the rest of the people in your community. So one thing that is great about working with us is that obviously I have my network, which is global, and then we have all of our hosts and they have their networks. And so it's just a great way for people with built-in community to invite others to do something that we're doing.
I love that. And it's so funny. I was actually talking with my best friend in the whole world yesterday, and we were kind of reminiscing. And I was telling her that all my friends, all my really close girlfriends, I have met on the job. And even her, like we were friends back in college and we took acting one together. We were both theater students at the time. And I ended up focusing my area of expertise in design and she focused her area of expertise in acting. But even then, we weren't really friends, like best friends, until we started working together in the theater
Yeah,
office,
yeah, yeah. And I
doing
mean,
like
that's the thing
basic
of it.
admin things.
Yeah, I mean, so we generally were in school, right?
Yeah.
And so we were connected with so many people because we were going to classes, and then if you went to college, then you had, more intimate relationships with people. But once you graduate and you're out in the workforce, then it's either you have a group of friends already or you develop friends, and it's difficult to do when we're working all the time.
Yeah, unless you're in the same place at the same time with really cool people. And I just found that like all my other friends, my best friend here in Denver, we met working together. She's now executive assistant to a C-suite. And now like another friend of mine, she was actually COS to somebody that at the same time I was working for my last executive and we're really close too. I just find that if you can actually make those connections
Yeah,
with
yeah,
somebody who has some similar lived experience.
of course. Yeah,
And the EA role is so unique that I love this idea of bringing people together. And also in a post-COVID world where we were so siloed for so long, not only siloed in our roles, which is very typical as executive assistants, but then also siloed we're in remote environments as we were dictated to stay home and whatnot, that like on the other end of that, I myself am craving face-to-face interaction. I coach every day with people and I love my clients and I love working with my people. And at the same time, like I love this and I just want to meet with real humans like
yeah,
in
yeah.
real life.
Well, that's where the magic happens, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
I am a huge work from home person. Like, I love working from home. I love that I roll out of bed and I don't go anywhere and I can be in my sweats all day long. Like, that is like pure Becky. But you don't actually make the connections in the best way unless you meet people in person. I mean,
Mm.
that is literally where the magic happens. And especially if you're networking. And the whole basis of the EA Social Club is that it is an authentic networking community. So we are inviting and hoping that the EAs, the support staff, all show up exactly as they are, what they bring with them that day, whatever they're in the middle of. They don't need to put on a face for us because we're not in an office environment. And so it's really like a community to like show up, talk about whatever you want to talk about, but we all have that common interest and that common place where we all come from, which is being in a support role. And so we all have that, that we can discuss and lean on each other for, and it just really builds this community that it's just life changing. Like, I cannot like emphasize that enough. I have some people who are hiring, and so they bring jobs to these events, and then I have people that are literally in hiring that join because they're curious to know who's looking. And, I mean, so it's really interesting how many different possibilities there are when you get people together in the same room.
Yeah, so I have a question for you. Um, how like for somebody who is less inclined to show up to a live event where they know nobody,
Right. Yeah.
what advice would you have for those people who are curious and may want to show up, but they are fearful also of being in a room full of strangers and people
Yeah.
who they don't know? Like, what would you say to them?
It's a really, really good question. And I do have to say that I am not the most outgoing person. So when I started putting these together, I was so nervous. I mean, I was so nervous. I can't even tell you. I was shaking going into into the first dinner. But, I got out of my comfort zone. I told myself I can do hard things. You never grow when you're not challenging yourself. And, it's a really great environment. And it's like going to meet up with your close friends. It's just that you don't know each other. So, for people who are extra apprehensive, I mean, you can always contact your host. You can let them know in advance. I personally, want our hosts and I myself expect that I try to include everybody, try to make everybody feel welcome. It's really important to me that everybody that is there feels that they have a space to speak up and engage. So, I mean, it is really a low, low, low pressure environment. And you just have to kind of get out of your own way. Right. And
Yeah.
once you do it once, it's amazing how you feel like, oh, that was actually great. You got something from it. You feel really, really good. You made some connections. Maybe you actually even heard about a job that you now can apply for or that you're interested in. I mean, so it's really just taking the first step. And once you take the first step, you find that it was definitely worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been in networking environments before, and I consider myself a fairly outgoing person. And yet I've been in environments before where I'm like, I have no idea what to
Yeah.
do. Everybody's huddled up, everybody's talking with somebody, and I'm just kind of floating there. And then
Yeah.
I reminded myself, like, so why are you here? And I'm like, well, I'm here to kind of explore these feelings too. It's like, I'm not just here to connect with people. That's certainly the point of going to a networking event. But then I'm also here to get really curious and get to know myself a little bit better too. And I feel like a networking event is a great way to do that as well, where
Yeah.
you're kind of putting yourself out there and you are experiencing some discomfort more than likely. And that can be good as well. Like I I often encourage my clients to not shy away from those feelings, but to actually get really curious about what's going on in that moment for themselves.
Oh, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be nerve-wracking doing something new.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just human nature. We don't know how to do it. We're uncomfortable. But once we embrace that and get out of our own way, I mean, it's really amazing what a gift that can be for us. And, the other thing is that these groups, especially for the EA Social Club, you're literally going into a group of people who do what you do.
Yeah.
So that automatically gives you something to talk about.
Yeah.
It's like you can just talk about who you support, where you work, and then that will automatically bring up conversations. I also generally do go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves. And so when we do that, then people get curious and they start asking questions, and it kind of just breaks down that wall, where you kind of feel like you don't know where you fit into something. But you're not alone. You are not the only person who feels like you don't fit. And you're never going to fit if you never give it a try, right? And the one thing about the EA Social Club is that we make a point to make sure that everybody feels like they fit.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
great. And I do think that starting out with a common understanding, like we explain ourselves and our roles so much to so many different people. Like I'm constantly explaining to my husband when I was in my last role in particular. I'm constantly explaining to my friends what it is that I do. Nobody gets it. I'm constantly like the only person you don't actually have to explain
Yeah.
the nature of your role and what it is you spend your time doing all day, every day is a fellow executive assistant or administrative professional. Like
Oh, for
that's
sure.
it. So I think
Sure.
you're absolutely right. I think that being in a room of like-minded people who also are interested in connecting with other people who are also equally as curious about you as you are about them is a great place to start. And
Yeah.
especially in networking environments, like the networking environment I was talking about before was for the family office space, and I was literally one of the very few women that was present at that networking event. And
And
so,
then there's that. Then there's that. That
yeah,
happens. Yeah.
yeah. So I will say that like being in a room full of other people who actually get it and all the collective knowledge in that room, like whenever I'm in a room of executive assistants, like doing a training or whatever, one thing that I really like to think about and have everybody in the room think about is like, I really want us all to consider the vast array of collective knowledge present here,
Oh, 100%.
like
100%.
hundreds of years of
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
here today. Like if we can actually tap into that collective knowledge in some way, like there is no greater power. And a great way to do that is through these networking events where you go and you're having these
Yes.
conversations with people and you're troubleshooting things or bringing up situations and whatnot. Like tapping into that collective knowledge can be a superpower. And it's one of the main reasons why, even in my groups, I like to run collaboration calls just
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
mind hive around a specific topic, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. And, I mean, that is also what this is about. It's creating a learning experience. So there are people that are new that are coming that just
Mhm.
haven't had the experience. And then there are people that are, senior and seasoned, and they just have so much knowledge to share. There are a couple people who I call like the OGs, and I
Mhm.
am just so excited when they come because I can learn so much from them. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable, and that just is so empowering also. I mean, one of the reasons I also started the club was that when I was, at the many jobs that I've been at, the EA culture was toxic where I would
Mm.
work. And it was really hard to find other EAs that I could relate to, get to know on a non-competitive like a non-competitive level, right?
Mhm.
And so, I think by removing people from the workplace, it puts them onto a plane that is more equal. And so people are more open to learning and sharing and exploring together. And so it's really incredible. I often will, of course, reference Jeremy Burroughs and the Leader's Assistant community as far as being one of the best online communities that I've ever come across.
Mhm.
And that is not what we do, right? We do not train. We do not do like the things that he does on his platform. Ours is strictly, being social, bringing people together, breaking down those barriers, letting people be authentic and build relationships with people who are doing the same things that they do on a daily basis. And the stories that we hear at these are amazing. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible to compare what you do to what other people do and the crazy things they've had to do and what you've had to do in your role.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so this is all really good insight. So if you end up going to one of these social club events, I will also say come prepared with anecdotes and stories.
Yes, for sure. 100%. I mean, it definitely, it gets everything flowing, everybody it cracks up and enjoys each other. But also, it's like I had an event coming up and I wanted to hear what other people had to say about restaurants and venues that they use,
Mhm.
So I mean, it's just like as you're going through your day-to-day job, you can tap into these resources and see what other people are using in your community that you could apply to yourself. So I mean, there's just like a knowledge sharing all around.
Yeah, I love it. So where can people find you? How can people get connected with the EA Social Club? Give us all the details.
Yeah. So a good place to start is with me, which is on LinkedIn, and it's Becky Kaapuni, K-A-A-P as in Paul, U-N as in Nancy, I. And then you can find pretty much everything at www.easocialclub.com. But I would also suggest following us on LinkedIn and then finding our Eventbrite page and following that, because that is when you will get notified about every event that is in your area. We are also, looking for hosts all the time. And so if anybody would like to bring this to their area, they can reach out to me at Becky, Becky, at easocialclub.com, and we can like start talking through that.
Okay, so I will link to all of that in the show notes. And I'm
Amazing.
really sorry I butchered your last name when I introduced you,
Oh,
Becky.
don't even worry about it. It happens, and you actually did it. You didn't. It's just I
Okay.
like to pronounce the double A, but it's Americanized for a lot of people. So it's totally fine.
Anyway, moving on. I will link to all of your socials. I'll link to your website as well, and I'll also include your email address in the show notes below where you're listening to this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today, Becky. I'm sure everyone walked away with something really valuable, and hopefully you lit a fire under everyone's butts to get out to networking events and to actually engage with other executive assistants.
Just as one quick closer, I just want to say that networking is the most powerful thing that you can do for your career. I have always said that it's your resume, but now if you are not networking, you are missing so many opportunities. So it's so important to get out there, network, make connections, and make yourself valuable to other people so they see your worth.
I 100% agree. And honestly, I have had some really interesting problems solved just by tapping into my network. Had I
Yeah.
not built that network, I would not have had the resources to actually solve a few of the problems that I've been able to solve that way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love it because the EA role is so unique and everyone's experience is so varied. So if you're able to tap into that collective knowledge, like that's where the magic really, really is, and everybody's wisdom and all their insights. So thank you so much, Becky, for coming on today. I really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully you all will go out and connect with Becky, check out her website, and see if there's an event going on in your community, and if not, reach out to Becky to become a host. All right, guys, that is all for now. Be intentional, be whole, and I will speak with you later. Bye bye.